Am I the a-hole for replacing my cheating wife's anniversary gift with divorce papers? Our sixth wedding anniversary was supposed to be a celebration of everything we had built together, but instead, it became the day I finally gave my wife exactly what she deserved. I had been planning this anniversary for weeks, carefully selecting a diamond bracelet that matched the earrings I bought her for our fourth anniversary. The bracelet sat in its velvet box in my desk drawer, waiting for the romantic dinner I had reserved at the French restaurant where we had our first date 7 years ago. What she received instead was a manila envelope containing divorce papers and custody documents that would change both our lives forever. My wife serves as a logistics coordinator at the nearby Air Force Base, a position she obtained after completing her 4-year enlistment 3 years ago. Her military experience provided us with excellent health insurance coverage for our family, which includes our 8-year-old daughter and our 5-year-old son. I am currently pursuing my master's degree in social work while managing most of the household responsibilities and childcare duties during her long shifts. The arrangement worked well for our family because her steady income and benefits allowed me to focus on my studies without the financial pressure of working full-time. Our marriage had weathered the typical challenges of military life, including her deployment to Germany when our daughter was 3 and our son was barely walking. I supported her career advancement and took pride in her dedication to serving our country, even when it meant sacrificing some of my own professional goals. The first sign that something was wrong came 6 months ago when she started working unusually late hours at the base. She explained that her new supervisor was implementing efficiency improvements that required additional coordination with shipping vendors and supply chain contractors. According to her stories, these meetings often ran past regular business hours because the contractors could only meet after completing their daily delivery routes. Her explanation sounded reasonable, and I appreciated that she was taking initiative to excel in her civilian position after transitioning from active duty. The second red flag appeared 2 months later when she began receiving phone calls during family dinner that she would answer immediately. She claimed these calls were urgent communications from supply vendors who needed immediate responses to prevent delays in critical shipments. Each time her phone rang, she would apologize to me and the children before stepping onto our back porch to take the call privately. When I suggested that work emergencies should not intrude on our family time, she became defensive and accused me of not understanding the pressures of her job. 3 weeks ago, I discovered the truth about her late nights and emergency phone calls in the most unexpected way. I had taken our children to the base commissary to shop for groceries while she was supposedly attending a mandatory training session. As we walked through the parking lot toward the entrance, our daughter spotted her mother's distinctive blue sedan parked in a secluded area near the base housing units. When I approached the car to surprise her, I could see through the slightly tinted windows that she was not alone. My wife was sitting in the passenger seat, engaged in an intimate kiss with a man I recognized as her supervisor from the logistics office. I quietly guided our children away from the car before they could notice their mother or understand what they were witnessing. That evening, I waited for her to come home and tell me about her training session, curious to see how she would explain spending her afternoon with her supervisor. She arrived 2 hours late and immediately launched into a detailed story about equipment certification procedures and new safety protocols. Every word she spoke was a lie designed to cover up whatever inappropriate relationship she was pursuing with her boss. Her phone habits became increasingly secretive, with frequent trips to the porch or laundry room whenever she received messages. She also started mentioning her supervisor more frequently in casual conversation, always emphasizing his professional qualities and leadership abilities. 2 weeks ago, I made the decision to follow her after she left for another supposed late meeting about vendor negotiations. Instead of heading toward the base, She drove to a residential area about 20 minutes from our house and parked outside a modest ranch-style home. I watched from a distance as she walked to the front door and was greeted by the same supervisor I had seen her with at the commissary. I sat in my car for over an hour before she emerged from his house, and her disheveled appearance left no doubt about what had transpired inside. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life as I processed the reality that my wife had been cheating on me probably for months. When she arrived home that night, she told me the meeting had run late because they were dealing with a complex shipping dispute, which sounded like complete bullshit. Her ability to lie so convincingly while looking directly into my eyes revealed a level of deception that I had never imagined she was capable of. I spent the next week researching divorce attorneys and gathering information about custody laws in our state, while maintaining the pretense that nothing had changed. The anniversary gift I had carefully selected now seemed like a cruel joke, a symbol of the devotion I had been giving to someone who did not value our marriage. As our anniversary approached, I realized that giving her divorce papers instead of jewelry would be the most honest gift I could offer. The morning of our anniversary began like any other day, with my wife rushing through her usual routine while I prepared breakfast for our children. She kissed me goodbye at the front door and mentioned that she might be slightly late coming home because her supervisor wanted to review quarterly logistics reports before the weekend. I spent the day making final arrangements with the attorney I had selected, signing documents, and providing the retainer payment that would officially begin divorce proceedings. The lawyer explained that while my suspicions about her affair seemed credible based on her behavior patterns, I would need concrete evidence if I wanted to pursue a fault-based divorce. He advised me that witness testimony alone would not be sufficient and that I should focus on documenting any physical evidence or communications that could prove infidelity. For now, he recommended proceeding with a no-fault divorce filing while I worked on gathering the additional proof that might strengthen my position in custody negotiations. He also explained that her military benefits would continue to cover the children regardless of our marital status, which alleviated one of my primary concerns about filing for divorce. That afternoon, I picked up our children early from their after-school programs and took them to stay with my parents for the evening. I told them that Mommy and Daddy needed to have an important conversation about grown-up matters and that they would have a special sleepover with grandparents. My mother sensed that something serious was happening, but respected my privacy when I declined to provide details about the situation. After settling the children at my parents' house, I returned home to prepare for the conversation that would end our marriage. I placed the divorce papers in an elegant gift box that perfectly mimicked the presentation I had originally planned for the diamond bracelet. The legal documents looked surreal, nestled in tissue paper where expensive jewelry should have been resting. I set the dining room table with our wedding china and lit the candles we typically reserve for special occasions. The romantic atmosphere felt appropriate for the occasion, though not in the way my wife would be expecting when she arrived home. She walked through the front door at 8:30, carrying flowers and wearing the black dress I had always complimented her on during previous anniversaries. Her guilty conscience had apparently motivated her to make an extra effort to appear like a devoted wife celebrating 6 years of marriage. She apologized for being late and explained that the quarterly report review had taken longer than anticipated because they discovered discrepancies in vendor billing statements. I listened to her elaborate fiction while mentally noting how effortlessly she could construct detailed lies to cover her affair. She seemed genuinely excited about our anniversary dinner and commented on how beautiful the table looked with the candles and formal place settings. When she asked about the children, I explained that they were having a sleepover with my parents so we could have uninterrupted time together. Her face lit up with anticipation, clearly interpreting this arrangement as evidence that I had planned something special for our anniversary celebration. After we finished eating the dinner I had prepared, She presented me with an expensive watch that must have cost several $100s. The gift felt like an insult given that she had probably purchased it with money she should have been contributing to our household expenses. When she asked about my gift to her, I retrieved the elegantly large wrapped box and placed it in front of her with a smile. She handled the package carefully, commenting on the beautiful wrapping paper and expressing curiosity about what surprise I had chosen for our 6th anniversary. The moment she opened the box and saw the legal documents inside, her expression shifted from joy to confusion to horror. She stared at the divorce papers for several seconds before looking up at me with a mixture of shock and disbelief. I calmly explained that I knew about her affair with her supervisor and that I had consulted with an attorney about ending our marriage. She immediately began crying and denying any wrongdoing, claiming that her relationship with her supervisor was purely professional. When I described what I had witnessed at the commissary and at his house, her denials became more frantic and less convincing. She begged me to reconsider and promised that she would quit her job and never speak to her supervisor again if I would give her another chance. I told her that the trust between us was broken and that I could not continue living with someone who had been cheating on me for months. She became increasingly agitated as the reality of her situation began to sink in, alternating between anger at me for spying on her and panic about losing her family. She demanded to know how long I had been following her and accused me of violating her privacy instead of talking to her about our marriage problems. According to her twisted logic, I was the one who had betrayed our relationship by investigating her suspicious behavior. She packed a suitcase that night and left to stay with a friend, claiming that she needed space to think about what she wanted to do next. Before walking out to the door, she told me that I had ruined the best thing in both our lives and that our children would suffer because of my selfishness. Her ability to cast herself as the victim, even after being caught in an affair, revealed the depth of her narcissistic tendencies. I found myself alone in our house on what should have been a celebration of our marriage, instead dealing with the aftermath of her dramatic exit. The children would need to stay with my parents for several more days while I figured out how to explain that mommy and daddy were having serious problems. My anniversary gift had been more effective than I had anticipated, though her reaction confirmed that I had made the right decision about ending our marriage. The 3 days following our anniversary confrontation passed in a blur of logistics and planning as I focused on obtaining indisputable proof for my divorce case. During this time, she did not attempt to contact me or inquire about the children's well-being, despite her sudden departure from their lives. My parents continued caring for the children, while I developed a strategy to document her adultery with photographic evidence. On the 4th day, I received a text message from her requesting permission to collect additional belongings from our house. Rather than responding immediately, I recognized this as an opportunity to gather the concrete documentation my attorney had insisted would be necessary. I positioned myself where I could monitor our home and waited to see whether her affair partner would join her during this visit. 30 minutes after her arrival, the supervisor's vehicle appeared in our driveway, confirming my suspicions about their ongoing relationship. Using my phone camera, I captured multiple clear photographs of him entering our family residence while the children were safely at their grandparents' house. Through our front window, I managed to photograph them in intimate embraces within the living room where our family had shared countless memories. The images showed both of them and documented the adultery taking place inside our marital home. After recording their interaction, I departed before they could discover my surveillance activities. With this photographic proof in hand, I immediately contacted my divorce attorney to schedule an urgent consultation. Upon reviewing the images, he confirmed that this visual evidence provided sufficient grounds for pursuing adultery-based divorce proceedings. The location of their affair within our family home would significantly bolster my position in upcoming custody negotiations. My lawyer warned that despite having strong evidence, the legal process would require patience and thorough preparation. Meanwhile, my graduate studies continued to suffer as I juggled single parenthood responsibilities with divorce planning. Missing lectures and falling behind on assignments threatened my academic standing, though my professors showed understanding when I explained my family crisis. The children's return home brought difficult conversations about their mother's absence and uncertain timeline for resolution. I explained that mommy and daddy were experiencing adult problems that required her to live elsewhere temporarily. Their innocent questions about whether they had caused the separation broke my heart while reinforcing my determination to shield them from the painful truth. 2 days later, she contacted me again, asking to retrieve more personal items, seemingly unaware that I had documented her previous visit. I agreed to let her collect her belongings during school hours to avoid subjecting the children to an uncomfortable encounter. When she arrived the next morning, she attempted to engage in friendly conversation, as if our relationship could somehow return to normal. Her demeanor suggested that she expected eventual forgiveness and reconciliation, despite the magnitude of her betrayal. I informed her that divorce papers would be filed within days, news that shocked her. She questioned whether I was truly prepared to end our marriage over what she characterized as a temporary lapse in judgment. I showed her printed copies of the photographs I had taken. Watching her face drop as she looked at the photos, she shook her head and apologized again, explaining that she could explain, and begged for a chance to clarify what appeared to be damning evidence. Her explanations would need to satisfy a family court judge rather than a husband she had already betrayed beyond redemption. After finishing her packing, she made a desperate final appeal for marriage counseling instead of legal proceedings. I responded that our marriage had ended the moment she chose infidelity over family, and no therapeutic intervention could restore the trust she had shattered. Her departing threat that I would regret destroying our family and traumatizing our children demonstrated her continued refusal to accept responsibility for her choices. Watching her drive away brought relief rather than sadness, as I realized I was finally free from the web of lies that had contaminated our home. The children returned home after their extended stay with their grandparents, and I faced the difficult task of explaining why their mom was no longer living with us. I chose to tell them that mommy and daddy were having problems that grown-ups sometimes have, and that she was staying somewhere else while we figured things out. Both children asked repeatedly when she would come home, and I struggled to provide honest answers that would not traumatize them further. Their innocent questions about whether they had done something wrong broke my heart and strengthened my resolve to protect them from the uglier details of her betrayal. 6 months after serving her divorce papers, instead of anniversary jewelry, my life had transformed in ways I never could have imagined during the darkest days of discovering her betrayal. The legal proceedings moved swiftly once my attorney presented the photographic evidence to the court, eliminating any possibility of her contesting the adultery charges. Her supervisor's face was clearly visible in the images, which led to an investigation by base security that ultimately cost both of them their positions at the Air Force facility. The military takes adultery seriously when it involves personnel in leadership positions, and the scandal effectively ended both their careers and their relationship. My ex-wife found herself unemployed, homeless, and abandoned by the same man she had sacrificed our family to pursue. The divorce settlement awarded me primary custody of our children, with her receiving only supervised visitation rights every other weekend. Since she no longer had military-affiliated employment, we lost our health insurance benefits, but I was able to secure coverage through the university's graduate student plan. The transition required careful budgeting, but eliminating her irresponsible spending habits actually improved our overall financial situation, despite the added insurance costs. Without the stress of wondering where she was spending her evenings or who she was communicating with, I found renewed focus for my academic pursuits. My grades improved dramatically during the semester following our separation, and I successfully completed my master's thesis on family systems therapy. My children adapted to our new routine much better than I had anticipated, particularly once they no longer had to witness the tension and arguments that had become commonplace in our household. They stopped asking when mommy was coming home after the first month, and their behavior at school improved significantly according to their teachers. During her limited visitation periods, she made various attempts to turn them against me by suggesting that Daddy had broken up their family unnecessarily. However, children are remarkably perceptive, and they seemed to understand instinctively that our home was calmer and happier without her volatile presence. The most satisfying aspect of our new life was the absence of deception and emotional manipulation that had characterized the final year of our marriage. I no longer had to analyze her stories for inconsistencies or wonder whether she was telling the truth about her whereabouts and activities. The mental energy that had been consumed by her lies was now available for more productive purposes, like advancing my career and nurturing my relationship with the children. My academic advisor offered me a research assistant position that would provide tuition remission and a modest stipend for the remainder of my graduate program. This opportunity would not have been possible if I had still been dealing with the chaos and distraction of her ongoing infidelity. Several months after our divorce was finalized, I learned through mutual acquaintances that she had moved to another state and was working at a retail job for a fraction of her previous salary. Her affair partner had apparently refused to maintain contact with her once the scandal cost him his military career and security clearance. The man she had considered worth destroying our family for had discarded her the moment their relationship became inconvenient for his own life. Friends and family members who had initially urged me to consider forgiveness and reconciliation eventually acknowledged that divorce had been the correct decision. They could see the positive changes in both me and the children, and several admitted they had suspected her infidelity long before I discovered the truth. My parents were particularly vocal about their relief that their grandchildren would no longer be exposed to her toxic influence and manipulative behavior patterns. The anniversary gift of divorce papers had accomplished exactly what I had hoped. It had freed my family from someone who valued her selfish desires more than our well-being. Looking back on that evening when I replaced jewelry with legal documents, I realized it was the most honest and caring gift I could have given to both her and myself. She had wanted a different life than the one she had committed to when we married, and the divorce papers gave her the freedom to pursue whatever relationship she desired. More importantly, they allowed me and our children to build a stable, truthful foundation for our future together. The woman who had once been the center of my world had revealed herself to be someone entirely different than the person I thought I had married. Rather than mourning the loss of our marriage, I chose to celebrate the discovery of her true character before wasting additional years on someone who was fundamentally incompatible with family life. The best anniversary gift I ever received was the knowledge that I dared to end a relationship that was poisoning everything I valued most. Our 6th wedding anniversary marked not the celebration of our marriage, but the beginning of a much better life, free from the burden of her betrayal. In my opinion, as a narrator, sometimes hidden strength can come from betrayal.